Karl and I'm a local chef in Surge's Delicatessen in Spalding. Now today we're going to prepare a leftover chicken lasagna, and the recipe is available to download on the website. So if you want to download the recipe and get all your ingredients together, you can then cook along with me. So today's list of ingredients are, we've got some leftover chicken, some onion, one medium onion, 2 cloves of garlic, an ounce of butter we're going to use, a 400 gram tin of plum tomatoes, some tomato puree, about 2 tablespoons we'll use of that, some lasagna pasta sheets, the no pre-cooked style, much better, some mixed herbs, some milk, some flour and some red wine, and of course seasoning, salt and pepper. So let's get cooking. Yeah. Right. Okay, first thing you want to do is you want to get this chicken nice and chopped. Now it's depending on how you like it, you can chop it small or large. I think medium size, you know, if you sort of do something, say something on that sort of size, you'll you know, it's quite a nice size. Imagine cutting it similar size to the minced beef that you'd use if you did a beef lasagna. Remember, this is all for fun. Cookery is fun. It shouldn't be just a chore that you've got to do every night when you come home from work. It should be something, you know, the whole family have together, and you should discuss it, you know. My family, we discuss at breakfast what we're having for dinner. That's why I've got a figure like this, but that's not the point. Okay, so that's the chicken nicely chopped. Clean the knife. Nice bowl, and we'll just stick that in the bowl. Put it to one side for the moment. Okay. There we have. Well, I boiled a nice white because we just used some cooked meat on there. If it was raw meat, we'd change the bowl straight away. With it being cooked meat, we can, you know, you do it this way. Okay, we've got 2 cloves of garlic. Best way to peel your clove of garlic is to get your hand, palm of your hand, on top of the garlic and give it a little, so you hear it crack. Because you should hear that little crack. There we go. And then when we cut the peel it, that little push should have helped it, and the skin should come off very easily. One quick go. Into the bin. Same with the next piece. Clears off there, and put that there. Now we're going to finely chop our onion. So cut the onion in half, and you've got the core here. Now for finely chopping onions, you want to leave the core in, and you should, in theory, chop not quite to the end, so the core holds it together. A bit like this. And the other thing is that the sharper the knife, the safer the job, and the bigger the knife, the safer the job as well. You know. Blunt knives cause awful cuts. Sharp knives make nice cuts. So if you're going to cut yourself with a sharp knife. It'll heal quicker. Slice across the top there. Again, slice across the top there. And then with a bigger knife, and we do a rocking motion down like so. And again, we don't go right to the core. We just turn it on its side a bit, chop a bit more. And we'll put the core to one side, and we can use that for things like if you're making your own stock from the chicken bones that are left from this chicken carcass that you've picked all the meat off. You can make a nice stock out of that and make a nice chicken soup. So we cut our second onion. And this is really a quick recipe. It takes around about 25-minute prep time and about a 45-minute cook time. So you can knock this up within an hour, and the tea's cooked, and you'll be chatting to your family in the kitchen at the same time. Okay, so we've got our onions chopped now. We'll move them to one side. In fact, you can almost do this as quick as a ready-made one. It'll taste a lot better. Crush our garlic again, put them together, chop them up, and we get the chicken sauce, the tomato sauce for the chicken on the go straight away. So we put our stove on, nice and high again, add some cooking oil, and put our onions straight into our pan. And in a few seconds that should start to sizzle. at this stage, the garlic can go in as well, because this dish we're going to cook quite quickly before we add our tomatoes and tomato puree. Make our lovely sauce to go with it. Now you can season this at this stage, so plenty of black pepper. If the onions are strong, make sure your eyes go like that, unfortunately. Again, personal taste, I love pepper. If you don't like it so much, don't put so much in. A little bit of salt. Oh, onions have got me. I've been a chef for 33 years and they still get me, so there's no cure. You can stick goggles on, you can put a peg on your nose, it'll still get you, I promise you. Okay, so we've now got the onions frying, the garlic. Again, you get that lovely aroma of the garlic, it's a great flavour. We just want to cook those for a little while without colour. We don't want to get them brown, that's why I'm keeping moving the pan. Moving the wooden spoon around. It's what we would call in the trade sweating them off. Oh. Okay, so they're nicely sweated off now. This is where we add a couple of tablespoons of tomato puree. Or again, if you haven't got tablespoons, then just a new tub like this and 2 good squirts. 1, 2. Okay. Fry that around, just to cook out the tomato paste, because this tomato paste is raw. It needs a little bit of getting going before we can add the other ingredients. Okay. Now, if you've got chopped tomatoes, great. In our case today, I've got whole plum tomatoes. I find they're a better product than chopped tomatoes. There's more flavour in the sauce. Doesn't matter. Still put them in the pan whole. Okay. Whole tin in there. Shake out the excess. Don't waste anything in the pan. Then just with your spoon, just break up the tomato. If you look at these are lovely deep red. They're just a beautiful colour. And sometimes you find some of the chopped tin tomatoes, when they're chopped, they're not as rich in depth in colour. And they tend to taste a bit less flavoursome. So this extra few seconds, it's not a hardship. So we've broken those all up nicely. We've seasoned it. Swing that around a little bit and turn the heat down a little bit now, because we want this to simmer for a little while. Now we're going to add our mixed dried herbs. Yeah, about a teaspoon. That can go in. Stir those in. Again, go through every now and then, go through with your spoon, just to break up these bits of tomato. Excuse me. Get to this stage, and now we come to the bit I like. A little splash of the leftover wine from last night, if you've got any left. If not, open a new bottle and treat yourself. So we're talking about a glassful, roughly. Yeah. I've only got half a glass left, that'll do. It's just about using stuff up. Okay. We give that a little stir. It gives your tomato sauce a depth of richness and flavour. Okay. And then we're going to put that on a low simmer now, and we're going to add our chicken. We're going to let that just simmer away for a little while, about 5–10 minutes, whilst we make the bechamel sauce, which is the classic sauce you always see on top of lasagnas. Right. Now for the bechamel sauce, excuse me, for the bechamel sauce we're going to need 1 ounce of butter and 1 ounce of flour. So you can weigh it if you wish. I've been doing it for a wee while, so I can get roughly what 1 ounce is. 1 ounce of butter in your pan. Put your pan on to high. Start melting the butter. And we've got our milk. And that, and our flour. Lasagna pasta we'll come back to in a moment. Again, if you want to have these pre-weighed out, your butter and your flour in a little jar, you can. I'm just using out of a packet anyway. As you can see, the chicken's bubbling away lovely now. The flavours are coming out, getting the flavour of the herbs, flavour of the wine, and that all infused into your cooked chicken to give it that nice, rich depth of flavour that we want to get, so we can get the nice feeling of a nice lasagna. Now our butter's starting to melt nicely. A second of that. Now some people might use jugs, but I mean it's in your fridge in a jug. Why make more washing up for yourself? Just put it straight from the carton. If you're worried about measuring or a pint, then you can measure it out. But if you're a seasoned pro, you know what to do. Just pour until you get the right consistency. So we now add our ounce of flour to this pan. That in there. And this is called a roux, and it is equal quantities of flour and fat, preferably butter. Butter's got a nice flavour. You can use spreads and things like that if you wish, but if you do use a spread, make sure it's got a minimum fat content of 65 to 70%. Any less and you'll find there's too much water in the actual products and you don't get the same consistency with your roux. And then we need to cook the roux in the pan for around about 3 or 4 minutes, just to get that flour cooked out. Now if you can see that in the pan there, it's got a lovely shiny bubbling away, cooking wonderfully. And now we know that we got the right thing there, and we can now add our milk, a small amount at a time. If you add too much, what will happen is you'll end up with lumps in your sauce, and it's a real rascal to actually get the lumps out, and you have to pass it through a sieve and so on and so forth. So if you can do it this way, a little bit of time, and mix it well. As you can see already, it's starting to come together as a nice white sauce. So you cook it away there. And it will go like a thick, sticky ball, what we want. Then we know it's ready for the next dash of milk. Again, patience, because it will suddenly start collecting the milk. And if you want to cheat, you can use a whisk, but it tends to wear away at the bottom of the pan, can take the flavour of your sauce sometimes, so be patient and use a wooden spoon. And don't forget, you can have the TV on while you're doing this. You haven't just stand here and watch the pan. You have the tennis on, the cricket on, you know, EastEnders, whatever. As you can see, it doesn't take long again. Start coming up to be looking like a sauce. Bit more. Once you get the sauce going a bit further, you can put a bit more milk in each time. Just the initial first few mixings that you need to have less of it. Remember, when you're stirring the pan, also make sure you stir all the way around the bottom parts, so that otherwise you'll find if you're just stirring in the middle, the outside part will get thicker and also stick before you've even realised. You can see now it's a lovely, rich, deep colour now come from the red wine, the tomatoes, and they're starting to change the colour of the chicken. It's just what we want. It's lovely. Once you've got the sauce the consistency you think you need to let it boil for 2 or 3 minutes just to finish cooking that flour out. So that's enough there. Put that back in our fridge. Okay. Now again, most important part of any cookery, seasoning. So a bit of salt and pepper in here as well. If you're a purist, you'd use white pepper, but I think black pepper's just as nice, and a few black bits in the sauce does not make much difference. It's much better flavour personally. The reason I say white pepper is if it was just in a white sauce for a simple job, you'd have black flecks in it and it would not be visually appealing. But flavour-wise, it's no difference. I'll turn that down to a medium heat now. Let that simmer for, say, 3 or 4 minutes, just to finish cooking out the flour. And you don't want this really big, thick, gloopy sauce, because when we pour it into our lasagna, we want a bit on the top, but we want something to mingle down and meld in with the rest of the sauce and the dishes and the pasta. If you have it too thick, it just sits on top and doesn't get into the other stuff. It does look a bit thin now, but as it cooks out, it will thicken up. And obviously you will need a dish of some kind to cook your lasagna in. I've got a nice glass one so I can see it bubbling in the oven, but any oven dish will do fine. As you can see, this sauce is starting to thicken already. So as you can see now, this is starting to reduce quite a little bit. We've got some thickness coming from the sauce now. The tomato, the puree, the wine, all the flavours are coming there wonderfully. Okay. And obviously, every now and then you need to check, make sure things taste all right. So get a little spoon. It's lovely. But that way you can check if it's got enough salt, enough pepper. I mean, if you're at home, you can stick your finger in if you like. But I use a spoon. Into the sink. Bechamel's doing lovely. Bechamel's just a French name for white sauce. You know what a French name, anything fancy. Always keep it on the move, just every now and then so it doesn't catch on the bottom. If it catches on the bottom, you get that smell of burntness, and it also tastes of burntness, and you ruined it, you've got to start again. Okay, time to construct our lasagna. Because the chicken's already cooked, our sauce is reduced, so we know that's ready to go. Our sauce is ready here, the white sauce. We've seasoned it, so that's ready to go. And then we've got a packet of lasagna sheets. Yeah. Most good supermarkets and delicatessens do these sort of things. Pull out a few sheets. Sometimes they don't always fit to the size of your dish, so you can check first, see how they're going to go. And we know that we're going to have to break that one to fit it in. So get ready for that. And if you get a few broken bits, let them fall in anyway, it won't make any difference. Now our white sauce is made, it's ready to go. It's just starting to thicken nicely now. And a minute ago it was quite wishy-washy. That's the flour's cooked out and it's worked perfectly. As I said, you don't want it too thick. And take that off the heat, bring it over here. Put them onto there for the minute. Turn that off down to there and let that simmer. Okay, now the way to do construct our lasagna is the way I construct it, is that I put a little bit of the bechamel sauce on the base, just a little bit. Start us off. Just slide that round. Get our first layer of pasta sheets in. Break them up so they fit. Bits and bobs. Then we get our next layer of chicken. That one in there. And this is all from 1.5 chicken breasts and 1 tin of tomatoes. So as you can see, there's quite a substantial meal you can make out of this. And it's using up things that you wouldn't normally keep, or you might put in a sandwich. So another layer of pasta sheets. One there. Another layer of chicken. Okay, get the rest of that chicken in there now. All into the thing. I'm going to scrape everything out, don't waste nothing. All in there. Another layer of pasta. Excuse me. As the dish goes up, it gets wider, so you can almost get a whole one in. That's why there's a few nibbly bits. Just break them off and pop them in. And now you've got a perfect fit. And the extra pasta sheets back in the box. There we are. Our lovely white sauce, which is now cooked fabulously. Final mix to make sure it's not stuck to the bottom. And we're going to pour the rest of it over the top. Now, some people like to put cheese on top of the lasagna, some don't. I mean, personally, I quite like it, so we've got some grated cheddar here. But any old cheese you've got left in the fridge, a bit of blue cheese, a bit of parmesan, doesn't really matter, as long as it's a nice flavoursome cheese. You want to use a bit of flavour, or you can have it without. It's entirely up to you. It'll come lovely and golden brown in the oven either way. So if you're calorie counting and you don't want extra fat in it, then leave it out. Personally, I like it. So we get the rest of our sauce, and we just pour it over the top, evenly across the whole of the pasta. And as you can see, it's running down the sides, mixing itself in with the rest of the dish, rather than having this great big lump of white sauce on top and layers of meat. Over to wash up. A little bit of cheese. Sprinkle it on top. And then just pop it into a preheated oven. 180 again for fan, 200 for non-fan, or gas mark 5/6 for ovens, gas ovens. So as you can see now, this lovely lasagna has come out of the oven. It's gorgeous stuff. And don't forget to go to the website. There are more recipes to download, and happy cooking.